Carleigh Welsh is the Director of Development and Marketing for the Levitt Pavilion, which is about 10 yards south of us here at the Westport Library. And you and your staff, including your mother, are responsible for over 50 nights of free entertainment a year and a few ticketed fundraisers. Levitt's been part of the Westport community for half a century. And today on 06880, the podcast, we will go backstage at the Levitt Pavilion. So Carleigh, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Didn't have to come far, I know.
I was just there.
Just there. So half a century, and you are not half a century old, but how have you been involved, and how did you get involved, and how did you get to be the where you are today?
Well, for almost for close to a half a century, Frida Welsh is full disclosure, my mother. She is the executive director, the first and executive director of the Levitt Pavilion. And prior to that, she was on the board and then was chairman of the board. And there was no full-time staff at that time. And chiefly, she did a lot of fundraising, and there was a seasonal general manager. And but immediately, we had moved here from California. My dad had a career move, and I'm so happy that they chose Westport. And so we were here. She almost immediately got involved with the Levitt Pavilion. And so from a very young age, grammar school, I have been stuffing gala invitations. I'm really good at it. And we have a system. There are rules. When you open it, you have to see what's coming up. And so I just from a very young age, I have been volunteering at the Levitt Pavilion. At a certain point in time, Frida was invited to take a job. She went back into the for-profit world for a very successful, period, and missed the Levitt Pavilion the same way I went from performing arts into the corporate world, missed the performing arts greatly. It just, when it resonates with you, it's really, you feel like it's a calling. And so the board at that time, this would have been circa 1994, created the position of executive director in order to invite her back to come and steward it as a full-time, proposition. And so she happily accepted. And again, I think probably within a couple of years of that. So I think her move back to the Levitt Pavilion became official in 1995. And sometime in the early aughts, I would have joined her board. At that time, I was living and working in New York in the performing arts and then in not performing arts sector as well. And I got to produce some series at the Levitt Pavilion, was always involved. And then to make a long answer, even longer, because it has been a lifetime of involvement, in sometime around when our capital campaign started, and it would have been circa 2005 when Frida was allowed to burn down the pavilion. And it had just, it was, I think the recession came crashing in, and it had just hit a bit of a stalling point, and it was really time to have another staff member. And it was actually the board who kept sort of cultivating me to say, don't you want to move back to Westport? You've been in New York for 20 years. That's a good run. Don't you miss the siren call of the Saugatuck and fresh air? And it was true. And so I had an opportunity to move back here. I didn't move right away. I reverse commuted till about 2013. But it was an extraordinary opportunity to come and finish a capital campaign, to get to be, to work with my mom, who I look up to as like an amazing colleague, non-pari, and she is definitely my boss, and always will be, obviously. But so I think officially I joined the staff as her official second staff member in 2011. And we've just been running with it ever since. And what keeps you there? You're obviously very passionate about the Levitt. What's the magic? What keeps you there? The sky's the limit. I mean, it is, we don't have a roof. The stage has a roof. We could still see the stars, and there's so much to do. And it is a very exciting prospect. I think that's one thing also. It has always been a marvelous concept. Free access to the arts. It's not rocket science, but it is fundamentally, I think we both feel very passionate about the fact that it's a critical part, a critical building block of a quality of life, of a just, empathetic community and society. Central to that is the premise that you want to support and steward artists at every stage of their career. And so that sort of signature 50 free nights, there are certainly free festivals and free events all over the place. It's nothing we invented, but I do think that the size and scale of the signature 50, and in truth, for many years, Frida's been doing 57, 59, 62. In 2021, when we reopened after COVID, after being dark and just fundraising, all we did was fundraise in 2020 in order to reopen safely and sustainably in 2021. We did, if you had asked me in February of 2021, we would have been happy if we were going to get 25 shows, and our funders and all of our stakeholders would have been like, yeah, 25, that would be good. We were actually able to safely do a season that had 60 shows presented free of charge to really come back full, bigger, better. And we did at least six paid ticket events, and then some other partnerships like the Pops or like the DNR concert we do for the first responders. And it also, looking at how we operated in 2021, we started doing some things that we had thought we would do at a more distant point on the horizon, and it fast-tracked some of those changes, and they were very successful. So it was like, okay, like the free tickets, and it was able to catapult us forward to doing and more paid ticket events, which again allows us to generate, it's very straightforward. It generates more revenue, and that in turn can expand our free programming, expand our outreach, help us better able to pay artists a living wage and a competitive fee, to create other new artistic programs that are in the pipeline. And the nice thing is those paid ticket events our free ticket events are so excellent. They are events that...
And you had Aztec Two-Step as a free concert.
Yes, and so those are, free concerts coming up that other places you would totally pay for. And by the way, there's no problem with, people can and should pay for tickets when they can, but I think what's nice about the free is there's no obstacle to attending. So you don't have to choose between your utility bill and bringing the kids to a show. You don't have to choose between a date night and some other real necessity. And the arts can really be incorporated into your daily life, and it becomes part of your experience as a human being. And that is a good thing, to not have it be a luxury. Yeah. And then, of course, so the free ticket model is great. We still can also capitalize on a paid ticket model to create other revenue streams to support that. And it also helps, pay the bills for maintenance, expand the staff. We expanded our seasonal staff, which was really important to us. We now have a house manager, a box office manager, more employment opportunities for young adults who both want to go into that field and some who don't want to go into the performing arts. But when they work adjacent to the performing arts, all of those show business problem-solving things that happen in the course of a production or every day during a season, or just the inherent service nature of what we do. We're in service to the artist. We're in a service business to the community. Those experiences help you solve problems no matter what sector you're going to be in, And so going back to, these things that we tried in 2021 that we latched onto because we were like, hey, this is great and there's no reason to retire it. Having more paid ticket events will never take away our commitment to our core commitment to free access. It will just help us expand it. But it can also help us bring in some lower, more competitive priced concerts instead of having each one like structured as a fundraiser where the very first word you hear is fund. Yeah. And so then like the tickets are like slightly scaled up to create that pot, that magic number at the end of the night. Well, some can just be like a fun night out. It covers its nut and it still all rolls back into this fantastic like free thing.
Let's talk about the programming.
Yes.
I mean, those of us of a certain age, not you, remember the Ed Sullivan Show on Sunday night when he would have, the Supremes, he would have a dance troupe, he would have a comedian, he would have a guy spinning plates, he would have Topo Gigio, the Italian mouse. And sometimes I think the Levitt is like that, not all in one night, but over the week, you see a lot of different things. How do you program? Is there a theory behind it?
I think that's one of the best compliments ever to be. Thank you, because it is an intentional variety, and Frida has said for a long time, it's not every night will be for everyone, but over the course of a season, the goal is to have something for all ages and tastes, and that is a great way to constantly sort of, again, interrogate how are we programming, who are we putting on stage, what voices and stories can be told, and think about, when you're programming for a community like Westport, it is an outward-looking community. People, travel. They want to hear about new ideas and new genres, and so bringing in things that are very exciting and some nights are super entertaining. Some nights you're rocking out. Some nights are chillaxing. Other nights are going to be more somber. And again, when you have a broad season and you really do make a commitment that one night is going to be a swing night, or here's a tribute to John Prine, and the next night is best in class in terms of tango, you're reaching so many people. And then I think it's like cross-pollinating artists and audiences. And there are sometimes, again, that magic catalyst of free access means someone can take a chance on something. Do I like bluegrass? Someone says, I don't know, but now I can try it, right? And not feel like, and so the artist can take a risk too. They can play some new material. It gives everyone permission. It is like a giant yes, a portal, an active and dynamic invitation to try new things, both for us as programmers, for the audience to try new things, to listen to things outside of their comfort zone. It's like, a constant state of discovery, and again, even for artists too, that they get to try new things. It's it's a fun space, and we want to have those. It's great.
Do you have duds? I mean, are there times when you and Frida just sort of shake your head and say, "What were we thinking?"
I will get back to you on that one. I'm trying to. There must have been something that maybe there was. And I feel bad in case, I don't because by the way, that show might have played well elsewhere. So I'm not going to use any identifying monikers, but I think it was maybe something that we thought it was going to be, and I am not talking about the Bindlestiff Family Circus, because they are amazing. And Bindlestiff, if you're listening, we'd love to bring you back. I think it was a different circus, and I think maybe it had an edgier, and Edge is good, by the way. Edge is great. But this was more like a sorrowful Edge. It was like, I'm not thinking that there was an actual cigarette hanging around the side of someone's mouth, but maybe it just seemed like the animals didn't want to be there, or the people didn't want to be there. Maybe we'll have to ask Frida who that was, and then we'll just keep it a secret.
That happens.
So it happens. I was thinking about this too, because I was thinking a lot about again, these nice overlapping places where we really do want to be a home for artists, right? And you have an artistic process as a writer, and there's that first draft that's really scary. Or say it's a song that someone that someone is like, does this sound good? Like, they need an audience to test out material, right? You need a reader to say, these are the questions I have to help that process. And so I think that's nice too, that we can bring in people who are at the not always just because they're at the outset of their career, maybe they're mid-career, but they want to try new things and bust a move and feel out some different territory. We're here for them too.
How about the audience? Is there a core audience? Is there a group of Westporters that you're not reaching? Do the new people who've moved in know the Levitt and come? Who's out there sitting on the grass?
The nice thing is now that we are, again, accruing some more data, we can probably, again, do some really nice analyses, too. We used to do, you might remember, like a town-wide mailing, and we hit about 13 zip codes in Fairfield County. And it cost, a lot of money at the time to do that. And it was also when direct mail was a more fundamental part of everyone's marketing strategy. And we're able to... because we have more flexibility, because we're growing the season in both directions, doing more offerings, we want to have, we've learned over the years, it is better to also have some flexibility, to have some late-breaking opportunities that we can accommodate. All of a sudden, there's a tour, something dropped out, we get a call. Do you have this date available for so-and-so? And also, you're getting it at a very nice routed fee. Right? And you're like, yes. Why, yes, we do. And so all of a sudden you can bring someone to town and it's kind of a delight and a surprise. But to I'm sorry, I got carried away there for about, I think we are very much a part of people's experience of Westport, and that most Westporters do know about us. And we also rely on, outlets like yourself and other community partners to help share. And we don't take for granted that, we're an anchor institution in Westport. We've been in operation since 1974. You don't ever want to sit back on your laurels and say, here we are, come and find us. We do outreach through the Fairfield County Cultural Exchange, that they're a fantastic service organization to a number of different arts organizations. The Connecticut Tourism will feature us, so that also, too, one of our functions is really to, again, be a cultural destination for people visiting Westport, and that comes back to us on so many levels.
So you do get out of towners.
Oh yes, yeah, we do. In fact, it's always exciting too. Someone will say like, "Hey, I'm flying in for this show," and it's not always the gala, right? Because that's pretty commonplace. People are like, "Oh, Cyndi Lauper's there." She wasn't playing. Like, that was the place. We were the place to see Cyndi Lauper last year, and so you'll get devoted fans who are going to fly in from across the country. What's cool too is someone will be like, wait, there's a Calexico show, or Bruce Horn, diehard Bruce Hornsby fans, they will see him everywhere. So yeah, we do pull a really nice visitor aspect as well. And then those people who discover Westport's amazing restaurants, shops. It's a great mix of an audience. I'd say probably 50% of our audience is, on any given night, probably firmly from Westport West End and the immediate Fairfield County area. And then the other 50 is probably a mixed bag.
Wow. You mentioned Cyndi Lauper.
Yes.
Once a year or twice a year, some of the big names. I'm remembering Frankie Valli, Buckwheat Zydeco.
I love that show.
Chuck Berry, the Beach Boys.
John Fogerty, you love John
Fogerty. Was fantastic.
And the Willie Nelson concert where Keith Richards...
I was going to ask about that. Willie Nelson, I was sitting fairly near the front, and I looked over and I said, that looks like Keith Richards. And he was just sort of hanging out in the wings. And he wandered on stage and said, I've always wanted to play with Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't make that stuff up.
No, Frida was sworn to secrecy. They knew he was going to perform. The show was already sold out, so it was one of those things, say nothing and it will happen. And so I think, I'm pretty sure she did not tell me or my dad. Not that we can't keep a secret, but probably it's like, if it's a state secret, it's a state secret. And so I think I remember like the shockwave that went across the audience where everyone leaned in. is that who I think it is? And then everyone leaned back. That's who I think it is. And it was like a little shockwave. It was a beautiful thing. It was a neat memory. I was there.
Is there a performer or a group that you've always wanted to get that you haven't yet been able to?
Yes.
Come on, just tell me. I won't tell anybody.
Okay. Well, I can't tell you the one about next year because we really are working on it, and I don't want to scuttle it. So, sorry. Annie Lennox, if you're listening, we're here for you. I think that would just be insane. We have an offer in on a couple of other people, so I don't feel like I feel like I might jinx it. Sure. I hope I didn't jinx Annie, but you'll work on it. You'll light a candle for us. Is there anyone that you would like to see? Because we can work on it.
I want to see Keith's band.
I do too. The winos, yeah, they gotta come. I think it's imperative.
I'm talking about the Stones.
Oh,
I want the band here.
the band.
The band.
Okay.
The greatest band still touring.
Yes. Yes. That's.
You mentioned work on that, please.
Okay.
You mentioned your mom burning down the Levitt. The original building, this is the second iteration of it. The original one was far less, how shall I say, nice. There were bugs. I mean, what did you do about that? There used to be bugs all over the place, and now there are no bugs. What did you tell us about those early days?
Okay, so the original Levitt Pavilion, and at the time, I mean, again, I think Connecticut weather took its toll. So in the beginning, it was a rustic but well-designed wooden bandshell, and it had, it was what it needed to be. And at that time, too, again, it was beautifully designed by, you might remember, a local architect, Bruce Campbell Graham. Sure. He donated his services. Galt donated gravel. I mean, it was really like people came together and made that place special. And obviously, it was a landfill that was transformed. And that original group won an award. This is before it was commonplace for people to talk about transforming brown space into green space. It was before open space was like something we were like, oh my gosh, we need to preserve and cultivate open spaces in communities everywhere so that not everything, again, is built around a transaction, right? You just want to have open space for ideally open dialogue and all sorts of open-ended journeys. So they were ahead of the curve there, and it was the lawn though was for that Willie Nelson show. We had 2,600 chairs in. It was pretty big, and it went. But also, things started to get overgrown. At a certain I don't ever remember seeing the river from the old site. It felt like Sherwood Forest, right? It was all these invasive things that had all grown up. There was no river breeze because, it was just very shrouded. And then also because of the depressions and the settling of the landfill, it got, there were some serious potholes and puddles and puddling and the bugs. And so when the new Levitt Pavilion was designed, it does have a smaller capacity. If we're putting in, we can, with obviously the fire marshal's approval, put in 1,900 chairs for John Fogerty. And we actually took 50 out because we just wanted to have a little bit more freedom to move. People can go to the bar. People can, just stand and dance. So really anywhere between 1,850 and 1,900 with chairs is that max capacity. And it was worth it, though, because now we have an access road for load-in. We have this beautiful river walk that we completed as part of the project that wraps around the whole space and also, again, creates this passive enjoyment of nature in the Saugatuck that the Levitt Pavilion made possible as part of that project. And there are... the only bugs I really see are lightning bugs, and they're beautiful.
Yeah.
You
you mentioned landfill. You're being very kind. It was the town dump. This library and the Levitts sit on what used to be the town dump. And I played Little League Baseball. There was a Little League Baseball field right there.
I forgot about that part.
There was a Little League field, and I would play baseball, and the goals would sweep down onto the garbage.
Funny.
It's a
You'd have like a real sense memory of like certain
Yeah,
smells during.
still freaks me out. We have a few minutes left.
Oh.
As we go, since we're
That was
talking about the
fast.
past, it goes very fast, just like one of your concerts. as we're talking about the past, are there any moments that stand out? Funny, crisis, things that, when you're sitting around drinking with your friends, you talk about? What are some behind the scenes moments that you recall?
Well, there's always, I did get to pick up Chuck Berry from the airport. And at first, and at that time, again, I was living and working in New York and on my mom's board. And she said, and I got a call. She said, "Can you pick up Chuck Berry from the airport?" And I don't know why I was such an idiot, but I was like, "Mom, like, I have like work to do that day. And like, I'll be at the gala, like I'll do whatever you want, but I'm like, I can't take the day off." And I put down the phone. I obviously didn't, we talked about some other things, and I'm sure she was scratching her head. And like probably about 3 minutes later, I picked up the phone and I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to call in sick. Like, I just sort of realized that you're letting me pick up Chuck Berry from the airport." And she was like, "I thought you would reconsider," And so having definitely gotten the right clarity and I got my priorities straight. I went, and this is before I had a razor phone, we were texting it was crazy. So I had a map quest of how to get from LaGuardia to the Levitt Pavilion. And actually, I think we'd moved the show to the Staples Fieldhouse because of the threat of rain. And I get there, and there's Chuck Berry, and he's as cool as you think he is, and tall. And all he had was a guitar case, because that's how he rolls. And there I am, and I'm like, "Hello, Mr. Berry. I'm Carleigh Welsh from the Levitt Pavilion. I'll be taking you to the show." And I opened up the passenger side door, and he sort of stepped around the other side, and he said, "I'll be driving, little lady." And I was like, "Oh, okay then." And so I was not going to argue. It was very clear. This was a statement, not a question. And he got in. And I'm taking out unfolding the MapQuest things, and he just peeled out of there. And so pretty quickly we were lost. And I didn't quite know how to tell this rock and roll icon that I think we should have started out by taking a left. I had no idea how to get back. And I'm politely trying to advance this idea of maybe if we go this way. And he said, "No, don't talk. Just hold on." And so he pulled over. In his guitar case was a pair of reading glasses. So he takes out his readers, looks at a map that somehow magically was in the back of the car, plotted a new route. We never spoke about this, this idea that we could possibly be lost, because like I don't want to be so reductive, but perhaps like any man of that generation, he was not going to ask for directions.
Right.
And but we did get to the Levitt Pavilion on time, and I think the tour manager and Frida knew we were late, but we got there in style, and that was pretty cool. There are other, I guess I could come back and tell more. I'll have to the abridged versions.
So last question.
Yes.
This is for someone who's never been to the Levitt.
Oh.
Pro tips.
Go, oh my gosh, come every night, because in 1 week, come this week, because you've got mainstays.
This is taped.
What?
This is being taped, so...
Oh, right.
So it's going to be after the fact.
Okay, then whatever week you're listening,
August. What are you
come
looking
this
at in
week.
August?
In August, you could see... Karina Reichman, who is busting out all over and is about to release an album called Joyride. And she does, in fact, skip on stage. She is so ebullient, it is contagious. And meanwhile, there's this tremendous psychedelic pop funk thing happening with her bass, and yet you feel like you're at a playground. So that's one not to miss. If for any reason this runs, oh gosh, Layla McCalla, I just have to say it. You will have missed her by the time you're listening to this, but she's a genius, and you should find out where she's playing next. Calexico is a free show. I'm so proud of the fact that we're giving that show away for free. It's kind of amazing. It's their 20th anniversary tour of a very seminal album for them. That's going to be a spectacular show. And of course, please, we're synonymous with free access to the arts, so avail yourselves of a free show. Any free show is world-class and amazing, but also please do come to our presentation of Daryl Hall with the Daryl's House Band from his eponymous cool club and his special guest, Todd Rundgren. It's the first time we're having a gala that actually has a first act and an intermission and a second act, and then they jam. And so that is, we're so thrilled to have Daryl Hall be our gala star. So I hope everyone listening will come.
And this will be the first appearance of Daryl Hall in Westport after his not aborted, but in 1985, the 150th anniversary of Westport.
Yes.
Hall & Oates were advertised as appearing at Longshore, and it was a hoax. It was
Hall & Oates didn't know.
They never knew. Somebody claimed to have signed them. They never appeared. But Daryl Hall will be at the Levitt.
And then next year we'll book John Oates, and then we can say that we have had Hall, ... and Oates.
Part of the magic of the Levitt Pavilion.
We have a plan.
Carleigh Welsh, thank you for being on 06880, the podcast. And as you head back to the Levitt, say hi to your mom for us.
I will. Come over. Have the backstage tour.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dan.